Episode 15. No help, said Susan, but it has worked, and here we are.
Yes, to be sure I see that,
said the dwarf, whose pipe seemed to be blocked. At any rate, he made himself very busy cleaning it.
But, well, I mean...
But don't you see who we are? Shouted Lucy. You are stupid.
I suppose you are the 4 children out of the old stories, said Trumpkin, and I'm very glad to meet you, of course, and it's very interesting, no doubt, but no offence?
And he hesitated again.
Do get on and say whatever you're going to say, said Edmund.
Well then, no offence, said Trumpkin, but you know the king and Truffle Hunter and Dr. Cornelius were expecting, well, if you see what I mean, help. To put it another way, I think they've been imagining you as great warriors. As it is, we're awfully fond of children and all that, but just at the moment, in the middle of a war, but I'm sure you understand.
You mean you think we're no good? Said Edmund,
getting red in the face.
Now, pray don't be offended, interrupted the dwarf. I assure you, my dear little friends.
Oh, little from you is really a bit much, said Edmund, jumping up. I suppose you don't believe we won the Battle of Baruna? Well, you can say what you like about me, because I know.
There's no good losing our tempers, said Peter. Let's fit him out with fresh armour and fit ourselves out from the treasure chamber and have a talk after that.
I don't quite see the point,
began Edmund, but Lucy whispered in his ear,
Hadn't we better do what Peter says? He is the High King, you know, and I think he has an idea.
So Edmund agreed, and by the aid of his torch, they all, including Trumpkin, went down the steps again into the dark coldness and dusty splendor of the treasure house. The dwarf's eyes glistened as he saw the wealth that lay on the shelves, though he had to stand on tiptoes to do so, and he muttered to himself,
It would never do to let Knickerbrick see this. Never.
They found easily enough a mail's shirt for him, a sword, a helmet, a shield, a bow, and a quiver full of arrows, all of dwarfish size. The helmet was of copper, set with rubies, and there was gold on the hilt of the sword. Trumpkin had never seen, much less carried, so much wealth in all his life. The children also put on mail shirts and helmets. A sword and shield were found for Edmund and a bow for Lucy. Peter and Susan were, of course, already carrying their gifts. As they came back up the stairway, jingling in their mail and already looking and feeling more like Narnians and less like school children, the 2 boys were behind, apparently making some plan. Lucy heard Edmund say,
No, let me do it. It will be more of a sucks for him if I win, and less of a letdown for us if I fail.
All right, Ed, said Peter.
When they came out into the daylight, Edmund turned to the dwarf very politely and said,
I've got something to ask you. Kids like us don't often have the chance of meeting a great warrior like you. Would you have a little fencing match with me? It would be frightfully decent.
Oh, but lad, said Trumpkin, these swords are sharp.
I know, said Edmund, but I'll never get anywhere near you, and you'll be quite clever enough to disarm me without doing any damage.
It's a dangerous game, said Trumpkin, but since you make such a point of it, I'll try a pass or 2.
Both swords were out in a moment, and the 3 others jumped off the dais and stood watching. It was well worth it. It was not like the silly fighting you see with broadswords on stage. It was not even like the rapier fighting, which you sometimes see rather better done. This was real broadsword fighting. The great thing is to slash at your enemy's legs and feet, because they are the part that have no armor. And when he slashes at yours, you jump up with both feet off the ground so that his blow goes under them. This gave the dwarf an advantage, because Edmund, being much taller, had to be always stooping. I don't think Edmund would have had a chance if he had fought Trumpkin 24 hours earlier. But the air of Narnia had been working on him ever since they arrived on the island, and all his old battles came back to him, and his arms and fingers remembered their old skill. He was King Edmund once more. Round and round the two combatants circled, stroke after stroke they gave, and Susan, who could never learn to like this sort of thing, shouted out, "Oh, do be careful!" And then, so quickly that no one, unless they knew as Peter did, could see quite how it happened. Edmund flashed his sword round with a peculiar twist. The dwarf's sword flew out of his grip, and Trumpkin was wringing his empty hand as you do after a sting from a cricket bat.
"Not hurt, I hope, my dear little friend," said Edmund, panting a little and returning his own sword to its sheath.
"I see the point," said Trumpkin dryly. "You know a trick I never learned."
"That's quite true," put in Peter. "The best swordsman in the world may be disarmed by a trick that's new to him. I think it's only fair to give Trumpkin a chance at something else. Will you have a shooting match with my sister? There are no tricks in archery, you know."
"Ah, you're jokers, you are," said the dwarf. "I begin to see. As if I didn't know how she can shoot after what happened this morning. All the same, I'll have a try."
He spoke gruffly, but his eyes brightened, for he was a famous bowman among his own people. All 5 of them came out into the courtyard.
"What's to be the target?"
asked Peter. "I think that apple hanging over the wall on the branch there would do," said Susan.
"That'll do nicely, lass," said Trumpkin. "You mean the yellow one near the middle of the arch?"
"No, not that one," said Susan. "The red one up above, over the battlement." The dwarf's face fell.
"Looks more like a cherry than an apple," he muttered, but he said nothing out loud.
They tossed up for first shot, greatly to the interest of Trumpkin, who had never seen a coin tossed before, and Susan lost. They were to shoot from the top of the steps that led from the hall into the courtyard. Everyone could see from the way the dwarf took his position and handled his bow that he knew what he was about. Twang went the string. It was an excellent shot. The tiny apple shook as the arrow passed, and a leaf came fluttering down. Then Susan went to the top of the steps and strung her bow. She was not enjoying her match half so much as Edmund had enjoyed his, not because she had any doubt about hitting the apple, but because Susan was so tender-hearted that she almost hated to beat someone who had been beaten already. The dwarf watched her keenly as she drew the shaft to her ear. A moment later, with a little soft that they could all hear in that quiet place, the apple fell to the grass with Susan's arrow in it.
"Oh, well done, Sue!" shouted the other children.
"It wasn't really any better than yours," said Susan to the dwarf. "I think there was a tiny breath of wind as you shot."
"No, there wasn't," said Trumpkin. "Don't tell me. I know when I am fairly beaten. I won't even say that the scar of my last wound catches me a bit when I get my arm well back."
"Oh, are you wounded?" asked Lucy. "Do let me look."
"It's not a sight for little girls," began Trumpkin, but then he suddenly checked himself. "There I go talking like a fool again," he said. "I suppose you're as likely to be a great surgeon as your brother was to be a great swordsman and your sister to be a great archer."
He sat down on the steps and took off his hauberk and slipped down his little shirt, showing an arm hairy and muscular in proportion, as a sailor's, though not much bigger than a child's. There was a clumsy bandage on the shoulder which Lucy proceeded to unroll. Underneath, the cut looked very nasty, and there was a good deal of swelling.
"Oh, poor Trumpkin," said Lucy. "How horrid."
Then she carefully dripped onto it one single drop of the cordial from her flask.